Okay, can people hear me now? I'm so sorry. My apologies. Thank you, Marlene, for contacting me to let me know that I was just talking and people couldn't hear me. Much appreciated.
All right, let's just start over. All right.
Okay. Still having technical difficulties a year and some change after the start of the pandemic and going into a virtual working experience, but you take it day by day. But anyways, as I was saying, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sure you all got a nice laugh just watching me talk without audio. But I just want to thank you all for being here, and I just want to make sure those that need Spanish audio can get access to it. So I will share that info. Buenas tardes, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros en otro foro comunitario con SOC. Como siempre, ustedes pueden escuchar esta información en español a través de nuestra línea de interpretación y el número que hay que marcar aparece aquí en la pantalla, es 646-749-3122 y luego el código para accesar es 779-328-221. So again, thank you for being with us. Again, sorry for that technical difficulty. And just so you know, even if you can't be with us at 3 p.m. on the dot, you can always watch these interviews, this information later on, because these videos stay on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. If you go to our video section, you can even see each episode in English or in Spanish. So please know that that's an option if you want to watch these interesting interviews at any time that's convenient for you. Today's topic is going to be especially fascinating as we talk with Sylvia Ortiz-Velez about a number of different topics, legislation going on at the county and state level. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, we'll bring her on right now.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're very thankful for your time. These are some really interesting topics that we're going to be talking about, and I'm sure topics that might stir up some different feelings for different people. And so hopefully we can clarify some things for folks today. But why don't you just go ahead and start by introducing yourself and talking a little bit about how you represent two different districts in two different ways.
Thank you. My name is Sylvia Ortiz-Velez, and I have the distinct honor of being both the County Board Supervisor of the 12th District and the State Representative of the 8th Assembly District at the state. In Milwaukee County is really an arm of the state. So at the county, we deal with a lot of the services like transportation, parks, our courts and our jails, and all of the airports and all of the local services, health services, and many other services that we provide here on the ground. And at the state, we deal more as a bigger picture legislative wise. So I'm very honored to have been born and raised in this neighborhood. I went to Kazi, went to Morgandale, went to Hayes. I have a father, still has a small business on 15th and Lincoln. Many people know my dad, J&J Tax, Jose Ortiz. So a lot of people know him from the neighborhood, and just happy to be here to talk about three very important issues. We have a very, and why it's important to our district, very important. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about actually was fentanyl strips and what's been going on here in our neighborhood, because there's a lot that's been going on. We have the highest deaths anywhere in our district, actually anywhere in the state, for opiate and heroin overdoses and other overdose deaths like that. And what we know is that between 2014 and 2019, Milwaukee County as a whole has had the highest capita opiate death rate anywhere in Wisconsin. And we know that in May 17th, a CBS 58 news segment, the Medical College of Wisconsin professor stated that 3, and this is interesting, this is very interesting, 3 out of 4 overdose deaths involves fentanyl alone in combination with other substances. So what we know is that from 2015, 8% of the deaths in our here in Milwaukee County in overdoses, fentanyl was involved. 8% 5 years ago. Today, it's 73%. So 73% of the people that are in our morgues right now, fentanyl was involved, and that's a huge amount. And so what fentanyl
Yeah,
strips,
that's a huge difference. In
and
just a
our
short
neighbors
amount
are
of time.
dying, and our families are dying, and our friends are dying, and what's happening are people are taking substances not knowing that fentanyl is there, that it's available there, and that they can't, because they can't see it with the naked eye. It's not easy for them to detect. So people are taking it inadvertently. So fentanyl strips is a tool that is being used in many states, where you could use a fentanyl strips in order to test a product to make sure that there's not a presence of fentanyl there before you take it. So what it can do is harm reduction to reduce the amount of opiate deaths that we're having here in Milwaukee County and throughout our state. And other states are using this strip. It could also help law enforcement. You know, of all jurisdictions in Wisconsin, Milwaukee County has experienced the greatest suffering, which has intensified, especially during COVID-19. We saw record-breaking numbers of people that have passed away. In 2020, we lost 462 lives here in Milwaukee County alone. And that it's really hard to kind of give data for the whole state because we're working on, better ways to assemble that data. But we know some data for some counties. We also know if we had the ability to test for the presence of fentanyl, it could allow some individuals to determine the safety levels of drugs prior to their consumption, allowing for prevention of accidental overdoses, and it could lessen the impact, like I said, of the opiate crisis, and it has in other states. Also, law enforcement officers and emergency medical technicians and our firefighters, everybody always forgets about our firefighters, are often among the first to encounter cases of suspected overdoses. And their ability to ascertain if someone is overdosed from fentanyl would both aid their ability to assist and inform hospital staff of the patient's ailment. So basically, there's a different protocol involved when fentanyl is involved when it comes to narconing. So that could really assist them in knowing, how to handle that better. Also, if an officer or an EMT or a firefighter, accidentally touches a substance, this could be used as a tool for them to ascertain what kind of danger they're in immediately so that they can seek medical attention themselves if they need it. So this is helpful for everyone in our state. And the reason I wanted to start with this conversation, because this is a hard conversation to have. A lot of people hide their addictions. They don't want to talk about them. But honestly, and I know some people may see this as, oh, we're encouraging drug use. And that's not the case at all. What we know is people are using substances and that they're not aware of what's in it. And some of them are dying from that. And this gives people at least a chance to make a change. Because if they're dead, they can't, if they're not here with us, they can't change. Just recently, I got a call from a constituent of mine whose nephew passed away Monday.
I'm sure many of us have experience with family, friends, neighbors, anyone that's in our circles that have experienced issues with addiction. And it's a very real problem for especially the area that you mentioned and that you represent. And so how would it work? It's a testing strip, you would put it into the substance itself, but then you also mentioned that if someone got a call, they would also be able to tell if somebody had it in their system or test maybe whatever drug is
the
around
substance.
them.
So it doesn't test an actual person's, body. So how it would work is if you got a pill and you got it from the street and you don't know where it came from because, you didn't get it from the pharmacy yourself and from a doctor, you can take a piece of the pill and you could test it in water. You dissolve it and you put it in water and you put the testing strip in the water and then you can test to see if there's fentanyl involved. Unfortunately, people are putting fentanyl in things that you wouldn't even suspect. So they're not only just making fake pills that look like real oxycodone pills or real Vicodin pills, they're putting it in there and they're making them look real. So you really don't know what you're getting when you get something from the street. And actually, that's how Prince died. Prince got a fake fentanyl pill, and that's how he died. And this strip could have saved his life. They're also putting it in cocaine. People are putting it in crack. They're also putting it in marijuana, even. So people are putting, and I hear now Xanax pills, they're pressing Xanax pills and putting fentanyl. So people are taking it inadvertently. Someone might touch it inadvertently. It's only 3 little granulates of what is like the size of salt that can kill you. That's enough to kill you. And so it's happening in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's cross contaminations because drug dealers are using the same utensils to mix other substances. And so it might be unintentional, and sometimes it's intentional. But what we do know is that in the last 5 years in Milwaukee County, we've gone from 8% to 73% of the deaths of the people that we have lost. Fentanyl was involved. And so this could lessen the, if we can test ahead of time, basically currently in Wisconsin, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this, currently in Wisconsin, it's illegal to possess these fentanyl testing strips. It's actually a felony in our state. It's considered drug paraphernalia. So it's a tool that we can use, but we can't use right now. So the hope of the legislation is, for Wisconsin, what we need is legislation to decriminalize their use and direct DHS to establish a program to distribute these fentanyl testing strips to our drug-dependent individuals in our communities and our partners, also to law enforcement and other people that may need them. I would like to see it available one day. I mean, it's obviously supply and market demand. Once they become decriminalized, you could literally order them online. Instead of, I know some people may not want to see a counselor to get a strip, or a person may never use this, but once a year. So they might just want to purchase them. So once they become decriminalized, they should be able to be purchased also on an open market, but also to distribute them through our DHS partners, wherever we distribute things like Narcan, which is preventative after the fact. This could prevent it before the fact. And what we have found is that in places where this has been done is that it helps because people are now aware of what's there. And so now you have a conscious decision you're going to be making. Some people have chosen to not use a substance at all, or to use a substance slower because they know there's something in there that's harmful, or use it with Narcan and someone there available. So there's been other actions and things that have been done to reduce the harm of this pandemic. It's an epidemic. It's definitely an epidemic. I think it's like a silent, genocide that's
Absolutely.
going on, and nobody wants to talk about. So that's why I wanted to talk about it first.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate you coming on and talk about this. It is an uncomfortable topic because it is, it's talking about, like you said, people may consider it condoning the use of those substances, but it's not. It's preventing the unwanted deaths that are associated with it and overdoses that are associated with it. Could you talk about maybe the cost associated with this effort and how maybe it might be offset by the tax dollars that won't have to be used in response to overdoses, or if there's any information you have on that? Because there may be some people who support something like this but don't support their tax dollars going towards it. What might you say to them?
Well, thank you, Gab, because you actually, you answered the question pretty well in your question, actually. There is a huge cost, not only to the cost of life in our society, but to the cost of services to our mental health services in our county, to other services that, involve paramedics, first responders. There's other costs that right now taxpayers are paying that, by reducing the amount of harm that this is having in our society, it will reduce the amount of budgets that have to be spent in other areas. So it is a tax saver all the way around, besides just the fact that it's going to save our neighbors' lives. And it can happen to literally anyone practically. And you never know who could be next. And besides that, I think this is something that, if we're going to make an investment, we should make an investment into saving lives. But besides the cost of lives, it does lower the cost of other services that society is already paying for because of this
epidemic. Yeah.
This epidemic.
And then just last thing, can you talk to us about what phase it's in? So when can we expect that this might get voted on and all of that?
Thank you for asking. And I'd like to say that, I believe this will be a bipartisan bill. First of all, I believe this is something that can help the entire state, and everybody recognizes that we are in a crisis and we must do everything we can to try to lessen the damage and the harm from our communities. And my hope is, and I believe, my belief is that this fall, when we come back in September, that in October, this fall, that this will be voted on, heard on, and voted on, and hopefully with the support of the state and the community and the people will pass.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think it's an important thing to bring people's attention to. And, you know, speaking of another drug, then the marijuana reduction for the fine of certain cases of possession. Are there any updates on that? I know that it passed at the county board level. Has it been implemented yet? What are some updates you have on that?
Oh, thank you for asking. And can you hold on one second? I'm just flipping to my notes. Hold on. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, of course. And while she's doing that, I do just want to emphasize that in the comment section, I put in a sign-in form. As you all know, we are funded by different funding sources and we have to report back to them. And one of the ways we do that is showing that we have people that are interested in the topics that we're bringing to you. So if you could sign in on that form that's in the comment section, that would really help us out. All of the information is private. It does not get shared with anyone other than our funders, and they don't do anything with it either. So please let us know if you, or please fill out that sign-in form that's in that comment section.
Well, I do want you to know that it has passed and it has been signed by our county executive, which I'm proud to say. And so it is an enactment enacted in our county. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background, and I wanted to mention just a few clarifications because I want people to really understand what the law change was a little bit more better, so that they are in compliance with the law, so that they don't violate the laws. And because Wisconsin is so unique when it comes to small amounts of, you know, marijuana and how each county treats it, and the fact that Milwaukee County kind of sits like on an island. And I just kind of wanted to give some clarifications. I want people to know, firstly, that the changes that we made to our code, chapter 24, which allows, which the change we made was up to 25 grams, that the fine would be no more than $1 for small amounts of cannabis. And there's several reasons why we did that. And I'll go into that in just briefly. I just want to briefly mention that we know that marijuana can be an exit drug. We know that opiate addiction can be reduced by legalizing marijuana, and there's plenty of studies and evidence that prove that. We know that, again, we suffer from, our area suffers from the highest overdose deaths anywhere in our state. So I also believe that can reduce that harm as well. And we know that too many people are suffering because our state also doesn't have a medical marijuana program. So that's another big issue, because we have no medical marijuana program in our state. So essentially, like many, like 35, I think now we're up to 39 states in our country that do. So we're one of the very few that don't. And so essentially what we're doing is we're criminalizing people that are trying to get access to their medicine, essentially. And we know that even if our state did have a medical marijuana program, that there's still a need to decriminalize small amounts, because we know that many of our heroes aren't going to go see a doctor to get a prescription. They have hard times just visiting people and talking about what they went through to even get a prescription. We also know many people in our communities don't have health insurance to even get a prescription from a doctor. So we know that there's still, you know, a lot of issues as well when it comes to racial disparities, when it comes to marijuana possession charges, and that's a big issue. We also know that Wisconsin has lost a lot of revenues, but most importantly, a lot of the fines are very, you know, the fines that we had previously were very cost prohibitive to people. And we were only collecting like 25% of them. So many times all that was ending up on people's credit reports and basically like continuing the cycle of poverty for them. So it wasn't a good thing altogether. But I wanted to make some clarifications. So the changes that we made, which is to reduce it to a fine for Milwaukee County, it only applies to the sheriff's department. So I want people to be clear that it doesn't apply to the city of Milwaukee's police department. This change in chapter only applies to the sheriff's department and Milwaukee County own lands and facilities. So the fine does not mean you can expect to go to another county either, because we have 72 counties in our state. And so under our current laws, the reason Milwaukee County was able to do this was because under our current laws, the state allows counties to regulate with a fine in lieu of criminal charges if they choose to. But out of 72 counties, only like 5 or 7 counties have chosen to. So this doesn't mean that you can go to other counties and expect to be treated the same than you would here in Milwaukee County. So you're kind of like on an island. So it does kind of create like a patchwork of local ordinances in different areas. So again, I just want to make sure people understand that the changes that we made to the Milwaukee Code of Ordinances only applies to Milwaukee County. And only applies for right now, and we're working on changing this too, but for now it only applies to 25 grams and not 28, which many times people are more familiar with 28 grams because people oftentimes get a discount when they buy in that quantity, which is also known as an ounce. But a lot of people may think that they can carry an ounce, but this change in ordinance, this law only applies to up to 25 grams. So I want to be clear on that. So
yeah, and just in for further clarification, so that means, for example, if I am on a regular street in the city of Milwaukee and I'm approached by a cop, let's say I'm on a corner walking to a bus stop or something, and I'm approached by a city of Milwaukee MPD police officer, that fine or that process would be different than is if I were in a park, for example, and was approached by someone who works.
Or you were pulled over on the freeway by our sheriff's department.
Okay.
Or you were in one of our facilities or lands.
Okay.
It would now in the city of Milwaukee, and I know is currently working on looking at making changes to their current cannabis marijuana possession laws, which under chapter 66 they're authorized to do by the state. So they have different things they can do. They can go further than what we've done actually at this county. And I look forward to seeing the final legislation. I know it's still being worked on, but it's going to be exciting when that comes out, I believe. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that clarification. I think that's definitely helpful for people. And then just before we go into the hemp business with the RFP for the Mitchell Domes hemp cultivation, do you want to say any last things about the marijuana fine reduction for Milwaukee County or for the fentanyl strip effort?
No, I don't.
Okay, then why don't we talk a little bit then about the push for RFPs for the hemp cultivation at Mitchell Domes?
Okay, well, there's a couple things that we know. We know that in the state of Wisconsin, in the past, we've had some issues. For the hemp farmers, had a few issues in the past in our state. In particular, they have been around viable clones. And what a clone is, it's basically a little baby version. When you go to the store and you buy those little baby plants, basically that's what a clone is. It's a little baby version of a plant. It doesn't have a flower on it. It's just the smaller stock of it. And we know that also for seeds, there's also a big need in our state for viable seeds in genetics. Part of the problem has been that when this plant is a female plant in the sense that you only want to plant female plants outside. So they have a lot of farmers in our state, because we don't have really a place where we can go for certified viable hemp clones and seedlings. They've been buying stuff from out of state. So when they've purchased stuff from out of state, what they've gotten are clones that weren't females. They were males, and they didn't find out until 6 weeks later, and males ruined the crop. You don't want to plant any males outside. You can ruin a crop a mile down the road even. You have to pull that out, that they get pulled out. So it's a waste of the farmer's time. What we also know is that a lot of times they also would get, because hemp is legal in the state of Wisconsin and also in the federal government. So hemp only has a certain amount of THC in it. I kind of equate it to like having like a beer that is not really a beer, but tastes like one. That's kind of like what hemp is in the marijuana world, because it doesn't have a high level of THC. So people are not taking it to get high, but there's medicinal purposes. And also there's purposes for hemp plastics. There's hemp plant actually can be utilized and has been utilized to clean soils. So there's so many different ways that hemp can be helpful to our society. Besides just, pain medicine and sleep medicine and other things that people use it for medically. There's paper. Are you kidding me? There's a ton of reasons we can use hemp. But what we know is our farmers.
Questions to go into what are the benefits of hemp and why should we want more of it, right? So thank you.
Well, plastics is a good enough reason. When I'm doing half the plastic out there, if we could have biodegradable plastic, wouldn't that be great?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great for our environment, great for our communities, because cleaner communities, less crime. I mean, there's lots of reports. The cleaner your community, the lesser the crime. So that, it can help our communities a lot in so many different ways. Jobs is another avenue, a huge avenue. Job creation in this field is a huge avenue that we can talk about, workforce development. And that's something that the county, I think right now, we put out 2 RFPs, and we know that there's a huge need in our state for viable clones because the state has told us so. And we know so because farmers have had to burn half their crops in our state because they've gotten hot clones with too much THC in it, or they're not viable because they're male, or they have environmentals, jumping worms, mites, molds that they're bringing in that are invasive species to our state, which is not good either. So there's a real need to have clones being grown here. And there's also, we have a really unique facility called the Mitchell Park Domes Greenhouses. And I don't want people to confuse the domes with the greenhouses. We're not talking about the domes. We're talking about the greenhouses, which is not open to the public and is not the things that you go and see the beautiful plants that we have there that are very precious.
So there would be a new hemp section for one of the 3 domes.
Well, no, we're not talking about the domes. We're talking about the greenhouses. So
right.
It is separate. A lot of people get it confused. And so what we're looking for is really like an opportunity to work with public-private partners to for a couple of reasons. 1, because our state needs viable clones for farmers. 2, there's, I believe, a great opportunity for workforce development. Some of my colleagues have brought to my attention the need, because in this industry, when it comes to especially people of color, we're not going to really be invited to the table to break into this industry when it comes to the labor market. And it's almost like, that pipeline is not going to create itself. I don't believe, because I have a real good knowledge of this industry. So in other states too, they have done proactive things. Local governments have done proactive things to make sure that people of color, Latinos and African Americans and other people of color that have been traditionally criminalized by this plant, that we're brought into the table when it comes for workforce development and learning how to cultivate and actually, have working family jobs that can support our families from this industry as well. And that I don't believe is going to be created on its own. So I think there's a role, and I can share more in the future because this is a developing thing. But that's about all I have to share now. I think there is a role in the future for for Milwaukee County to work with the state of Wisconsin to develop that pipeline so that folks in our communities can actually have access to have a chance to learn that kind of industry, to have that kind of trade skill.
For sure. And so for those that are watching that might not know, RFP is request for proposals. So that means that they are actively accepting proposals from people who may be businesses that would be willing and able to produce those clones and care for those clones. And is there a link that people can use to explore more or learn more? Any information,
Well,
a
on Milwaukee
portal
County-
that people can put in their requests?
So I tell everybody, if you go to the Milwaukee County website for procurement, Milwaukee County procurement, they have a list of all of the RFPs.
Great.
So if they're interested in any kind of RFP in the county, that's where it's listed.
Great. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for being on here with us today. You have been someone to come on multiple times and share important info with us. We're very thankful, and we look forward to the next time.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. I love having conversations with the community. Thank you.
Yeah. Any last messages or anything you want to share with folks?
No, just that it's been an honor to serve you. And I promise I'll continue to keep working hard. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
Awesome. We had a lot of great info from Representative and County Supervisor Sylvia Ortiz-Velez today. Very thankful for her time. And if you are interested, like she said, in the request for proposals for anything regarding the county, Milwaukee County, you can go to the procurement website, and we will see if we can add that into the comment section for you all. And now I want to bring on Marlene so she can give us a COVID update. Hello.
Thanks, Gabe. All right, everyone. So I want to first talk about the COVID vaccine webinar that we are hosting tomorrow. Essentially, it's a 1-hour webinar that is going to go over everything related to COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccine. We're going to be going over the new Delta COVID-19 variant. We're also going to be going over any traveling restrictions, and Hayat Pharmacy is specifically focusing on helping individuals figure out what requirements are needed before traveling to those countries. So if you have any questions about that, you can come and tune in and we can get your questions answered. So it'll be an hour long of us explaining everything related to the vaccine. And then after that, we're going to have 30 minutes of questions. So it'll be from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And I will be putting the link in there for people to register. And it's a SurveyMonkey, so you can go right in there and register for that. So that being said, we also have our COVID committee coming up. It is going to be the 24th of this month, which is also a Saturday at 1 p.m. But let us know if you would like earlier time instead of Saturday at 1 p.m. or if you would like us to switch things up and have it during the weekdays since it is summertime now. And I know many of you would rather be outside than be on a Zoom call on your days off. But you can register for that using our SurveyMonkey link that I will be putting in the comment section as well. We do offer compensation, so we have a raffle for a $50 Walmart gift card if you do participate. For this next upcoming event, we'll be discussing our next steps moving forwards in regards to our COVID-19 vigil that we're going to be having and mural that we're going to be establishing in the community and how you can participate. So that is for that. And now I'm going to share my screen to show you guys I'm going to show you all the current numbers. This should not take long. So if we look here at the current numbers per zip code, it's looking like the 53215 zip code. Okay, let's look in the past 7 days. The 532. Well, it doesn't look like any new cases came about in the past couple of days for the 53215 and 53204 zip codes. But if you look at the zip codes overall, you'll see that this is really hard for me. You'll see that it's very tiny, but the 53215 is still in the red zone, and the 53204 is in yellow. So there's that. But that is all that I have for you guys for today, and I hope you guys can join us for our webinar tomorrow.
Thank you. And yes, Marlene will definitely put the registration for that webinar in the comments if it's not already there. And we are thankful for her updates always. Also, I just want to remind you all to please sign in to the sign-in form that is also in the comment section so we know who was with us today getting this information. It just helps us with our reports to the funders that allow us to do the work that we're doing. And also, if you have any other feedback for us, we have another survey that you can fill out, and I will leave you all today with the video that explains why that's important for us. So thank you all for being with us, and we will be with you next week. Have a great weekend and stay safe.
Has this live forum been informative and useful to you? What part of the forum could be improved or changed to make it better? Please take a quick survey that's located in the comments section so that we can keep 3 o'clock with SOC going for residents. Thank you for tuning in.